Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Satisfactory. I'm Max Involved, and today we're gonna finish up. Well, we're not gonna finish up. I gotta set expectations right now. We're not gonna finish this up, but we're gonna put a huge dent in all of this that you see before me. This template for our future power fuel farm, whatever you want to call it, our power plant. We're getting power. That's the bottom line. But before I do that, do me a quick favor. Scroll down just a little bit. We are just a feather's touch away from 1,000 subscribers. And looking at the analytics, a lot of people don't subscribe who watch it. That's just the facts. All right. So if you could do me a favor, just hit that subscribe button. Help me reach my goal of 1,000 subscribers. And with that out of the way, let's hop right into this. Last time I kind of detailed the plan for the fuel power farm, right? And you know, it's the most complex thing that we've built so far, right? And luckily, you know, I've had a couple streams in between episodes, and I've done a little bit of work, and we started working a little bit up there. So let me go up there, and we're going to kind of talk through how this is all going together and why decisions were made the way they were. All right, so this doesn't look like much, right? We're just kind of up here from down there. We were just down there, and now we're up here. But this is the first step in the chain of getting all of our stuff done. And you might notice, by the way, completely unrelated side note, you see that Mercer sphere right there? You see all these creatures around? I guess with the newest update, they kind of, I don't know, respawned or moved collected items back out into the world. So I'm not going to go around collecting this stuff. You know, I just assume that they'll fix it with a patch. But if you see that stuff lying around, trust me, I notice, right? But anyway, so if we look down, right down here, we've got our oil set up, right? So that's 2 pure nodes on a 600 pipe. That should be 480 crude oil per minute, right? So we're going to go ahead and we're going to, let's see if we can just bring that over. Maybe something like that. We'll kind of come up. I don't know. Something like that. And we're just going to really just bring it right up here. Right? So now we have all this oil up. Then what we're going to do, right? We're going to look at the plan here. This is the order of operations that we're going to build things here. So 16 refineries, boom, 16 refineries. And they are all going to be doing the alternate heavy oil residue recipe, right? So what I'm going to do is take all this, well, I'm going to make that like look okay. And then I'm going to, jeez, that looks so bad. And then we're going to pipe this all up, right? And so the idea is we're going to split this pipe in two and send half of the crude oil this way, half of the crude oil this way. Then we will output 2 pipes. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. I think this is the input, right? Yeah, okay. So half down here, half down there. We're going to then output 40 times 8. What is that? 40 times 8, 320 heavy oil residue per minute. 1 pipe, another pipe. And we're also going to be exporting the polymer resin. So eventually, if we look at the recipes here, we have this residual rubber and residual plastic. These 2 recipes right here. I think, I don't know. There's some way. Basically, we're just going to be making this stuff. So we're going to be using the polymer resin to eventually make rubber and plastic. Just not yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to collect it all. And I'm going to put a sink down like over here. And yeah, we're just going to let that run. Now, why is this up so high, right? Why is this way up here? There's a couple things to take into account, right? If we look, this whole fuel power plant is going to be powered by a single pipe. One single pipe of input. What I can do is slap a couple Mark II pumps on there, you know, like one down there, one like halfway up to make sure we have enough head lift. Then that will provide all of the head lift we'll ever need for the rest of the plant. Because what I plan on doing, right, is, so you'll notice we have that. Then we're going to go into another set of refineries with packagers and stuff like that, right? My plan is we're going to collect all this heavy oil residue. And then I'll go down somewhere like in this area and have all of the heavy oil residue flow downhill and go into the next set of refineries. And then that's going to eventually make packaged fuel, and then we're going to unpack it, and all that fuel is going to go downhill into the refineries making turbo fuel. And then those are finally, I don't know, maybe I'll do that in there. I don't know exactly where I'm going to put all of this stuff yet. But the idea is that each step is a little bit lower than the step before it, so that gravity does all of the work. No pumps other than the first two on this oil pipe right there. So that's the idea there. So let me set this up a little bit more, and then we'll all kind of, this should put a picture to the words I just said. And so you can see kind of what I was talking about here, right? So if we go down here, I did a little decorating too, right? So I'm kind of trying to make this look like it's just one big platform that's kind of held up, you know, with these supports here. And, you know, I got some bases down there, but you can see I ended up putting a pipe right there, or a pump, I'm sorry, a pump right there. And then there's a pump. I don't know if you're able to see it right here, like literally right here, right? So that gives us all the head lift we need. And of course I, you know, dyed things black. I'm not using the floor holes because I just don't really want to, honestly, just a design thing. But I did put these little signs down so I can keep better track of how much is going in any given direction. And I'm coloring the pipes based on what's in them, right? So then here's all of our heavy oil residue. You can see on both sides. And the polymer resin outputs are going up top there, right? So we go down this way. I should have, ta-da, signs showing our output as well. So that should help us kind of take care of keeping track of everything, right? And so the idea is, I think I'm going to put a pad down here, you know, and then I'll just, I have an idea, right? So this isn't, unfortunately, this isn't going to be a clean setup, right? You see we have two pipelines here. Well, we need to make 22 refineries down here for the diluted packaged fuel, right? Let me just make one so we can look at the recipe here. Diluted packaged fuel takes packaged water, heavy oil residue. Well, you'll notice that this number is not divisible, right? So we're going to have, I think we have 640, and if we divide it by 30, unfortunately, we're going to have some remainder, right? So if this was, you know, a clean, even number, then I could just split. I could just use one line to feed 11, one line to feed 11. Boom, boom, we're done. But as it stands, I'm going to have to kind of like mess around and split them into three lines, I think. So I'm going to get that started, and I'll put this stuff down and explain it a little bit better once there's actually something that I can point to. So let me just hop right down there, and you can kind of see what my idea is, right? So what I'm going to do is we're going to have, if I can get up a little bit higher, we're going to have those two lines, and you can see I've incorporated a sink up here as well. I'd love to have better fuel, right? So we're sinking all the polymer resin. I'm going to have these lines right here, these 600 lines, kind of do something like, you know, we'll put them like right here, something like that, and then just literally do this, right? And then this, you know, okay, here, let's at least make an attempt to be respectable looking. I'll obviously clean this all up, but, you know, doesn't mean we have to be heathens. At least not in the short term, right? So that, put that there, and then you go here. So my idea is that all the heavy oil residue will flow out and get into these three buffers, right? The reason I'm doing this is because the way I understand fluids work, it kind of just equalizes itself out, right? So what I can do, I'm going to have 21 full power refineries. So I figure 1, 2, 3 lines. But then the question is like, what do you do with that extra 33%, right? So I'm going to have 3 lines of 7, and then one of the lines will have an 8th refinery at 33%. And I'm hoping that by kind of splitting up the fluid this way and using these buffers to, well, buffer the input here, that the fluid can kind of flow out where it's needed, especially once things start to get saturated. Now, I think that this middle one will fill up the fastest just because of where it is in proximity. You know, it's essentially getting a full pipe's worth, whereas these are only getting a half pipe, and you know, it should hopefully balance itself out in the long run. I don't know. You fluid masters in the comments, because I know you guys are always there. Let me know what you think of this setup. I think it'll work, but you know, we'll see when that happens. So I'm going to get started building the refineries, but they're going to be at about this level, right? So that's obviously, we could make them honestly even, like I could have put this level like literally 1 meter lower, and the gravity would have done all the work for us. But you know, I went a little bit farther down. I'm trying to kind of follow the terrain. Some of this stuff we can get rid of, some of it we can't. So yeah, so let me put these refineries down, and I'll kind of again show you what I mean by that. So here's everything looking all color coded and nice and better, right? So here's all the pipe layout, right? Here we have all of the refineries down. This is what I meant. A row of 7, a row of 7, and this is a row of 8, with this one right here being underclocked, right? So it's only taking in 10 heavy oil residue per minute. My hope is that this guy will kind of just get the extra fuel, or the extra heavy oil residue, just from the way fluids kind of flow in the pipes. So we'll see how that works out. Maybe it will work, maybe it won't work. If I was only doing 600 heavy oil residue, this would be a moot point, because I would just use one Mark II pipe. But one of the things I wanted to do, I've been realizing that we're going to have an issue when it comes to powering this whole thing on, right? This is a ton of power. And quite frankly, we don't have enough power. So what I thought is I'm going to actually kind of power this up in stages as we go. So what do I mean by that, right? I'm going to connect a power line down there. Yeah. I don't know, like one of those to this, right? I'm going to connect that up and just let it run. Let it run and let it fill up the fluid buffers. Let's go here. So go there. So yeah, let me run up there real quick. Actually, let's look at the power before we go up there. And this is what I mean, right? We go from 3350 to 3950, right? So this is just this 400 power. I don't even have the 22 refineries that are doing the diluted packaged fuel online yet. This is just the 16 that are up there, and the pumps and the oil extractors. So, you know, this is our capacity right here. So we're going to run out of capacity very quick if we can't power this thing on in stages, right? So let's go up there. Let's kind of take a look. I don't think anything crazy would be going on, but let's just get up there and watch it working at least. All right, I'm starting to see stuff flow. We've got the polymer resin producing and sinking for now, right? We don't want this to get backed up, but we've got the heavy oil residue. And man, I need to put some hyper tubes in here to get up and down between the levels. I'll figure that out once I do the design as well. I've also been really liking the idea of using these painted beams as a way to kind of run power lines. I've seen some other YouTubers do this, and I had just never done it myself. But now that I'm trying it out, I actually really like it. Obviously, design work is going to come in time. Right now, I'm kind of just focused on getting things working. But yeah, if we get on here, we should see that this has the most, right? So this is like net, or the fill rate. I mean, there's a fill rate and a drain rate. It's definitely filling faster than it's draining. But if we look at the side ones here, oh, I guess it's about the same. So maybe this is working as I intended. But what I eventually want is all of this to fill up, all these pipes, all these buffers, everything. I want them all filled so that we can kind of shut this down and then use what's stored up to power that up. And then once that's powered up and it's creating eventually just regular fuel, we shut this down, and then we turn on the refineries that make the turbo fuel and so on and so forth, right? So eventually, when we're getting some turbo fuel into fuel generators, we can eventually start turning on each step. Or I guess start here and then turn on each step to kind of like work our way down and eventually produce enough. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it all works, right? But now that we're here, the next thing we are missing is packaged water. And you'll notice that this is like a conveyor belt item. So one of the things I did, or one of the things I'm going to do, I haven't done it yet, is I am going to build a water packaging plant. And I'm going to do it right down here, right in this area. Now, one of the advantages, again, remember, I'm doing as minimal pumps as I possibly can to move fluids. So one of the great things about having packaged water is I can make it very close to the water surface and then just use belts to get up here to tackle the vertical change, right? So that's super easy. And I think what I'm going to do, right? So we have a couple things here. We have to worry about the output from this. This will be packaged fuel, and I think I'm going to run this all this way, right? So it's going to go like that, roughly. This is going to go like here, right? All the packaged fuel, and then I have to put the last row of things here. So let me do that, right? I'm also going to have, let's see, the packaged water, I'll have it come up, I don't know, like over here maybe. Because I want to build this stuff down there, so I think I'll just kind of poke up through here, have packaged water come in, and then just literally follow the pipes and split off into their area, right? Now, we don't have to deal with this here, but we're eventually going to have to unpackage the fuel we make, right? So before we even get into that, because this is so crazy, right? Let me start working on the water, because I'm trying to do this in steps, right? I want to make sure I have half the input. Let me get the other half of the input built, and then we'll worry about the rest. So let's go down there and start working on the water packaging. And of course, every good water packaging plant starts with water extractors. So I just kind of use these foundations. I didn't do the same thing I did over at the coal power plant where I put foundations under there to let me snap. What I did is I basically just put something down where I wanted a pipeline to run, and then I just, I put the foundations down, ran the pipeline, and then, yeah, the water extractors were pretty easy to put down. But this is what the packaging plant is going to look like, right? Now, I'm going to have to use pumps here. I probably could have gone a little bit lower, but I'm back pretty far, right? I'm kind of in the terrain over here. So I figured 3 pumps, not a huge deal, right? Now there's going to be challenges with this, right? So the way a basic water packaging plant works, you get the raw water. These are going to be empty canisters. Empty canisters are going to go in with the water, and then you're going to get packaged water out. That packaged water is all going to coalesce from the 3 lines we're going to make, right? And these have, now note here, I have 7, 7, and 8, exactly like the refineries upstairs. One of these, I think it's this one, is underclocked, right? So there is a very clear relationship between the number of packagers and the number of refineries. They have to be the same. They have to be clocked the same. So again, same thing. The water is all going to go up from all 3 lines. It's going to go across once I put these belts in, because of course I didn't put these belts in. So it's going to go up, and we'll kind of follow it up. So it's going to come up these lifts, and just like I mentioned, it's going to, in this case, just kind of go around. Boom. Water. I got to add in the rest. And then these, I'm literally just going to kind of do that. Right, and then last one here. Now, luckily, them being 2 stackable poles high means that they can pretty easily hit the default height for a. Okay, hold on. There we go. The default height for a conveyor lift, right? So, like the minimum, the minimum height that it makes is 2 stackable conveyors high. Just if anybody didn't know that, now you know, right? And so we're just going to do this here. Can you click in? Thank you. And the last one right there. And then I'm just literally going to follow this line down, right? I'm going to put the conveyor poles down like so. Like so, you know, lock it, nudge it. Put one roughly in the middle. And put one on the end. And what's really nice about this is that once I have all the belts made, I think this will fit. Let's see. Yeah, you're going to go. Oh, you're not. All right, so here's an easy way to figure out this. Well, I guess it doesn't really matter. I was going to say an easy way to kind of figure out where you got to put this stuff, but it doesn't matter. We have straight build mode. You don't have to do this anymore. But if for some reason you did, can you, there you go. If you ever wanted to build something and you didn't have, and you're not using straight build mode, let's say, if you want to make something perfect 90, you kind of go to the middle of the thing you want to go off of, right? And I'll lock it in place. And then you just nudge it over 2. And that will be, look, I'll go to default. That'll be perfectly 90 from this one. Kind of a moot point now with straight build mode, but you know, it still works for pipes now because pipes don't have straight build mode yet. I'm hearing rumors of it in 1.1, but we'll see. Okay, then from here, we're going to literally just hold down control until they snap. And just do that for everything else. Right? Boom. Just like that. So from here, there's a couple other things that we need to take into account down there, though. So let's hop down there and let me talk about what we're going to do with the empties. So you might be thinking to yourself, what am I looking at right now, right? We just booped to this thing. What is this doing? This is a 3x3 load balancer. What do I mean by that? That means each one of these inputs will perfectly, quote unquote, perfectly split or balance the input to all 3 belts, right? So this is useful if you have multiple, in this case, 3 belts at different inputs and you want to normalize those outputs, right? Now, why did I build this, right? My plan is to have a closed loop for canisters. What does that mean? That means that once there's enough saturation, so there's a number of canisters needed to make this system work at 100% efficiency without, you know, slowing down or anything, right? That's 100% efficiency. There may become a time where you don't have that. Something gets backed up, especially. So what can cause a closed loop like this to stop working, right? Well, we got to think about the dependencies, right? How are we even getting to the point where we're using packaged water? Well, we need the heavy oil residue. Heavy oil residue has the possibility to back up. It has the polymer resin as a byproduct. If the polymer resin stuff isn't working, like say I don't build in an overflow sink or something, then that can stop producing heavy oil residue, which means that this stops taking stuff, and down the line we're making more empties, and so we can get a backup of canisters here, right? So I want to try, and I'm going to preface this by saying I am not 100% sure how well this will work. I'm just kind of making this to try it out, right? So the idea is that if any given line is backed up or short or whatever, so we're going to have empties coming in somewhere this way, right? They're going to come in and kind of split themselves into any given line. The idea is that if for example, this line is full and we have an input coming in here, then this can send it to the other 2 lines, and vice versa for all 3 lines of input. Now, I think there's a quantity, there's a sweet spot of canisters, right? There's the number of canisters that will make this run 100% efficiently if nothing is wrong. And then there's a lower limit to that and an upper limit to that. If you run low of that, I guess that's better in the sense that you're not, you won't be backing up. You just won't be efficient, right? You won't be making as much as you can. The upper limit of that is where we kind of need to worry, right? Because if you have too many canisters, because remember, the belts themselves factor into that, right? You can have empty canisters that are on the belt that aren't doing anything. They're just adding to the, you know, the inventory, right? So finding the balance of the right amount of canisters to give us a little bit of buffer, but also to make it so we have enough, that's gonna be the challenge. Will I throw in containers here? Maybe. Like, maybe that's an option too. You know, I don't know. I don't know if the answer is having more canisters or less canisters. So it's going to kind of be a trial by fire, and we're going to kind of have to see how it all goes. But yeah, so that's the idea. So we're going to make our unpackagers. Really, it's going to take the package fuel, turn that into fuel in a pipe, and empty canisters. Empty canisters are going to come down here into this nice little load balancer. And if you're not familiar with how load balancers work, by the way, it looks complicated, and I would say the complicated part is figuring out how to make it all connect in a semi-coherent manner. But really what's happening is I have a splitter and a merger on each line. Splitter, merger, splitter, merger. All that's happening, right, is the principle is that each splitter should send a belt to each merger of every line. So you can see I got one to that merger, one to this merger, and this one is going to that merger, right? So all 3 of them are getting one of this splitter's lines. Well, that's the same for this splitter, right? That's going to that merger, that's going to that merger, and this belt is going to the front merger, right? So really all you're making sure is that each splitter is sending one belt to every merger in the line, right? Now, it obviously gets more complicated when you have more than 3 inputs and or 3 outputs, because, you know, they have 3 built in. So it's kind of not trivial, but it's much simpler to do this. I've never tried to make a bigger one than this, and I don't know if I'm going to. So yeah. So if you want to, you know, kind of look at what I'm doing here, if you want more detail about how I built this, let me know in the comments, and I don't know, maybe I'll make like a blueprint or something out of it. And notice you could probably make this more compact, but I'm very deliberately spacing this out so that each line is in the center of a foundation, just to give myself room, right? So anyway, that's that. So now I think the last thing we're gonna do this episode is get to the point where we are creating the fuel itself. And that's all going to happen right up there, where these unpackagers are going to kind of run the whole show here. So pretty straightforward, right? So we see right here, this is the output of our refineries. This is going to be packaged fuel. That packaged fuel is going to come in. It's going to go to a unpackager where we're going to do unpackaged fuel. That's going to output fuel, empty canisters. Fuel. What I'm going to do is, let's see here. Let's say this. We'll do this one. So we'll put like one there. Put one kind of roughly in the middle. And we'll do one on the end. Now, there's 2 ways to do this. This way I'm doing it is the worst way, I'll say. And what I mean by that is ways to kind of line everything up. So normally, if you put a pipeline junction on, if you hold control, it'll snap. But you might notice that it's not doing that. It's not snapping. So what I can do is if I get rid of this, Basically, if you put the pipeline down first and then you put the junctions, they'll snap if you hit control. But when they're kind of overlapping like this, it doesn't like to snap onto it. So that's just a little tip for that. But basically, what's going to happen? All of this liquid fuel is going to pump out this way. And I'm going to have, again, the same setup that I have over here. This one has 7. Now, it's going to be inverted, right? Because I kind of just have it looped this way. So it's going to be 7, 7, and then the very last one is going to be 8 because the belts are just going to kind of loop around. But I'm going to have to do this in a couple ways, right? So you see we have the unpackager right down there. So one of the things I want to do is I'm going to do something like this. I'm going to take this wall. We're going to go like this. I'm going to go like this. I'm going to go like this. What I want to do is I'm going to, after I put down this, so we're going to put down a pipeline junction. You'll kind of see the way I do this is I kind of just wait for that line to show up. You see in the middle there, that kind of tells you that things are where they should be. We hook that up and then I get rid of this pipeline support. Then I will take this. This is the line of empties that are going to come out here. Empty canisters are coming out here. And I'm going to run that above everything. And that should be pretty straightforward. Now, obviously, these aren't going to line up. I'm going to have, there's going to be, like a tile of space. And these take up about, what, 2, 3 tiles. So this is spaced out a little bit more. But they'll all eventually merge here. Because I'm going to take the lifts from here and send them down to the unpackager. So let me get this all built out. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. So it should be a really quick boop. But I'll build this out and then we'll go from there. As promised, all of the unpackagers are here, right? So we've got all 3 lines here, and you can see, we've got all the inputs here. Final output, all the fuel we're gonna send. I don't know. It's obviously all piping out this way. I may end up putting it all into buffers somewhere. Nice little geothermal there. So somebody in the comments of the last video did mention that the batteries were a decent way to modulate the geothermal output. So again, I have to think about how I'm going to power this up. And I might put those on the loop with the batteries on the grid with that thing and use that to kind of, again, like push stuff down. None of this, I haven't powered any of this up yet because it just feels like so much. It just feels like so much. And I'm scared, honestly. So yeah. But man, this is also like the biggest thing I've ever built in this game. And it's getting crazy. The next step from here is to build, what did I say? 57 refineries doing just straight up turbo fuel. Now, part of that, compacted coal. So luckily we have our 480 line right there. We'll kind of bring that over and get it involved, but I think I'm going to do that just on a slightly lower. I might just do that out here. Yeah, I think we'll have enough space. It's 57 refineries. Really, it's 56 refineries plus 1. So I might do that in, I don't know, 9s maybe. Yeah, if I do 56 divided by 9. No. What I meant 8. So that'd be 7 lines. Maybe I'll do lines of 7. So I have, well, I don't know. 56 divided by 3 is what? 18 and change. 57 divided by 3 is 19. Okay, perfect. So I think I'm going to do rows of 19. Because we're going to have 60 times 7. So 420, right? 60, 480, 60 times 7, 420. So 420 in. And then let me see. Refineries are this, right? So 420, 420 divided by 22.5 is 18 and change. So that's what we'll do. So it looks like we will have 19 refineries. They'll all be clocked a little bit differently just to accommodate these fuel lines. And yeah, I think that'll be pretty straightforward. 3 19s, and then that'll make turbo fuel, and that turbo fuel will eventually fall down in this area with a bunch of fuel generators. But on that note, guys, I think we're going to call it. Actually, I lied. Let me show you the loop. So the empties go this way. Right? I told you they're all going to go down there. This one, I'm just waiting on. Oh, actually, you know what? I don't need to do that anymore. I can do that. So they're all going to come out that way, go down here, kind of follow this little bridge here, and go into the bouncer. Pretty straightforward. I don't think there's any surprises there. I'm very interested to see how this all works, though. You know, I'm very excited for all that. So anyway, guys, that's going to do it for this episode. So thank you all so much. I hope you're excited about seeing this thing come to life. And let me know any tips and tricks you might have down below, because I think I've got a good handle on what I'm doing here, but I would love to hear from anybody who's got experience doing this kind of stuff on anything I might be missing, right? Anything I'm not considering. So, all right, guys, thank you all so much. I hope you're enjoying this, and we'll see you in the next one.